So today we'll be taking a look at Appwrite, which is a self-hosted backend as a service that lets you do many things such as authentication, messaging, and all that stuff in a very easy way. So as you can see in their homepage, it has databases to store, query, and manage data, upload and manage files, authentication of many sorts, and extension of all these services, as the code is open source and you can self-host it, and this makes it a lot more abstracted the usual things. Like if you're working on your own SaaS platform and you want a quick authentication and a database up and running, Appwrite is I think it's a very useful tool. It's a very useful service to actually. It is very easy to set up. So in this video I'll be showing you how you can set up Appwrite in your local environment and show you how authentication can be done with just a few lines of code, right? So we'll be going through the code and how you can install Appwrite in NextJS, and how you can register a user as well as log in with a user. So we won't be giving much importance to the UI. We'll be just seeing how we can integrate Appwrite to Next.js. So let's get started. So for setting up this project using Appwrite, let me give the link in the description of where we want to copy some files, which are namely the .env file and docker compose.yml file. So make these files inside any directory in any drive that you wish, and as you can see, you can just copy paste these values. And I hope you have Docker installed, so go ahead and run docker compose up -d --remove orphans, and if this is successful, you can type localhost/login in the address bar in your browser, and you will be navigated to the home page, and this is where you can sign up. And once you sign up, you can see this hostname registration page. You can give it whatever you want, so I'm giving it social media-clone. And yeah, so back here we can create a new Next.js app using npx create next tab and social media clone, and I'll give the default options for everything: TypeScript, ESLint, Tailwind, etc. Okay, just like this, really simple. And here inside the social media clone directory, let me create a .env.local file, and let me go back to the app dashboard. Let's see what we have here. We have to create a couple of configurations, namely the we want to create a connection between Appwrite, whatever is that we are explaining here, the backend SaaS, with our Next.js app. So like this, you can create some environment variables, and you can find these values inside the dashboard, right? Since this is self-hosted, it's very easy to see all these values. So you can name these values whatever you want, like next public endpoint, next_public_project, like that. And then make sure to install Appwrite using npm install Appwrite, and then let's go ahead and create a database. And let me name this social media-clone. And let's come back to documents. Yep, so I named my collection name as chirp, and let me create an attribute like this. So let me name it text, and let me give it a size of 300, and let me hit create. So as you can see, this document, I am going to give it a value for the text as this is a sample chirp, and let me hit next, and let me hit create. Right, so we need to create 2 more environment variables. So this one will be next_public_database, and this database ID you will get it from the self-hosted backend. and then next public chirp collection, which also you will get, and then let's go ahead to the index.tsx file inside the Next.js app that we created, and let's create a function called getServerSideProps, right? And getServerSideProps, we can create a connection by using a client, and let's import client from Appwrite, and let's do client.setEndpoint, and here we have to specify the endpoint which we have defined in the .env file. So process.env.nextPublicEndpoint.setProject, and let's give the project endpoint here. This is how we can create a connection to the self-hosted backend. So it's really simple, as you can see. And here let's create a const database, which will be new instance of Appwrite database, and let's pass the client object to that instantiation. And const chirps will be await database dot list documents, and here let's see what we have to pass. Let's pass in this particular value and this particular value, just to let them know that these are the values. And here let's see what we have to do, and let us return props, just like this. Props will be chirps, right? And here let's pass in chirps, and let me console log chirps as chirps, and let's see if the connection works. If the connection works, we are good to go, right? I think below we have to do the process.env, and once you do that, we can see that we are able to fetch data that we have defined in our backend database. I mean, not backend database, in the database which is inside our self-hosted backend. So that's how I would call it. And yeah, so in the same index.tsx file, what I am doing is I'm just creating a div and with a style and some padding, and I'm just gonna what we are going to demonstrate here is what we have already discussed, is we are going to handle user sessions. So this will be creating a user, login of the user and logout of the user, and we'll see how we can fetch the user details, how we can fetch the user session from Appwrite once the component is initially loaded inside something like useEffect. So we'll be exploring all that. So let's start with any one of these. Let's start with create user. So I'm creating two buttons, as you can see. One will be create user and one will be create user via email. And let me create a function called create user. And let's do const client is equal to new client, like we have done before. And const account will be new account. So make sure to import account from Appwrite, and client.setEndpoint will be let's pass in the environment variable like this. And yeah, this is how we can create a connection with the account. So we can go ahead and do account.create, right? And this is really simple. With just 4 lines of code, we are able to create and create a connection. And let's go ahead and give some dummy values. So account.create nikhil@gmail.com, and let's give the password as password123. Response.then. I'm just looking at the documentation right now to see if this is correct. This is not using ES6 syntax. Let me go ahead and change that. So arrow function, this will give something. I don't know what that something is, so let me console log it. And dot, so dot error is not there. I think I have to change it and give us as dot catch. Yep, dot catch. I think this is fine, this will work. So let me copy and paste this method just below it, and let me rename this with create email session. So this is basically trying to fetch back the details once we have created the email session, and searching for the method. So create email session is deprecated, I think, so we have to use something else. Let me see the latest documentation. Okay, so it is create email password session. This is how it will work, and we have to pass the email address and the password, right? So as you can see, the buttons are there. Create user via email. So creation of session is prohibited when a session is active. So this means that our session is working. So it is actually working. So this is good progress. So here itself you can see how easy it is to use Appwrite. So what we can now do is we can use the use effect hook which comes with React, and we can try to fetch the user session when the page is initially loaded. So let me go ahead and create the session just like we have done before. Const client is equal to new client, const account is equal to new account of client. I think before that we have to do the set endpoint and set project. So let me copy paste this. Okay, and const promise is equal to account dot get, and then let's make a call and fetch the callback and console log the response. And here we can console log out if there is any error. Okay, so as you can see, when we reload the page, we get the session details. So created at, ID, updated at, email, everything is there. It's working perfectly and it's very easy. So here we have all the details of the user, the provider type, user ID, etc., everything.